Welcome, my name's David. Today I'll be doing a long-term review of this, the Jetboil Flash. I've used this thing a ton for years and it's time. I've got a lot to say about this, some good, some bad. Let's get into this. So the Jetboil, if you're not familiar, this is a cook system that came out years ago. Basically this whole system on the bottom here with these riffles made it more fuel efficient and made it faster to cook. In general, yeah, this does boil water pretty quick. There are some solutions that are a little bit faster. In terms of fuel efficiency, we'll start there. It is incredibly efficient with fuel. There's no doubt about it. How this system works is when the water boils, it has this kind of flamey thing here that lights up with red to kind of tell you where the water is in terms of boiling. It's a little gimmicky. You don't need that. You can just look and see if it's boiling. The system, though, comes with the pot, this fabric-y handle. It's got this little bowl which attaches on the bottom like that. It's got a lid. And it's got this bit here, which is the cooking part, the base, which goes onto a fuel canister. And it has this mount, this ground mount. So let's break these down piece by piece. This little bowl is good if you want to share your food with someone. You can take out some food, give it to them. This can handle high heat. So it weighs not much. It has measurements on here for 1 cup with a few lines. So in general, pretty good. I don't use it all that often, but it's there if you need it. The lid is really well designed. I quite like this. It's got a strainer here, so if you're cooking pasta, and it'll also have another hole here for if you're a coffee drinker. I only use it for sifting out, pasta water, but the main thing to note is when you put it on there, you click the lid down and make sure it's exactly opposite of the handle. And even when I'm sifting pasta with this strainer thing, I always make sure to hold this down because I did have one time it popped off. So I always put my fingers on it like that. And then I'm, putting my thumbs on there and sifting my water like that. Or I'm very carefully, withholding the top, that kind of thing. But in general, I like the design of this. It works well. The actual container itself, you can put a liter of water in here. It boils in around 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. It depends. It can be up to 5 or over 5 minutes if it's really windy. This is not immune to wind. I've had this thing blown out multiple times when I'm backpacking and also van lifing, cooking in the back of my vehicle as well. In gale force winds, I have used this, but I have to put rocks around it and then I have to huddle my body on one side wherever the wind direction's gusting, and you can get it to work, but really you need like a windscreen, something like this, to go around it. But then if you're doing that, you might as well be using something that's lighter weight. This is like a GSI stove that would just go on there in place of this, just like that. But then you need a pot. But with that, you can choose different pots. You can get something lighter than this. So in general, if we're talking weight, this thing is kind of middle of the road. If you get like a pocket rocket with like a Tokes 500 milliliter, you'll be lighter weight than both the GSI and this. And then for a windscreen, a lot of people use, this one weighs 110 grams. So it's not the lightest thing out there. You'd be better off with using tin foil. Some people cut up a can, that kind of thing. There's a whole bunch of different solutions. Bringing out folded sheets of tin foil, aluminum foil seems to be the lightest solution to block the wind. Some people just cook behind a rock wall or something like that. With all that said, this is not immune to the wind despite having this kind of system down here. I've had it blown out so many times and it gets frustrating. Now let's talk about this base. So how this works is you turn on the gas, and then this one has an igniter on it here. It never works. It worked for the first little while and then it stopped working. There's a way to get it back working. You take your spoon, you can scrape it against this little bit here, and basically when you push this, a spark is supposed to arc to that bit, and if you push it down, it's too close, it won't actually create a spark, and if it's too far, it won't also create a spark. So it has to be in that Goldilocks zone, and also can't have any soot on it. That's why you scrape it off. The thing is, I'll spend so much time fiddling with this thing where you could just pull it a lighter and just so I wouldn't bother with getting one of these things on any of them because they eventually all stop working and they cost more and it's extra weight. There's a nicer solution to this because I don't like holding a lighter up to this when I've got gas on. Lighter's got fuel in it too, and if it it's just, I don't want to blow up my hand and burn myself. A new solution I've got is this thing. This is a fire beaner. So I'm already carrying carabiners to hold my drone and other things onto my backpack a lot of the time. And this thing is a carabiner, but it has a flint on the side here. So you can see the spark it produces there is large. So all you have to do is just turn this on and off you go. So I quite like this thing. It also has a little blade here for cutting string if you need to. For me, it's mostly the fact that you can just create a nice big spark off of it. It also has this little screwdriver on the end, which I use for my camera. There's a plate on the bottom that I always have to keep tightening. So if you have, I don't know if other people have other things they need to tighten, maybe something on your glasses or something, but for me that is invaluable too. But in general, the system's not bad though once you get this ignited. Then you put your Jetboil on it. The thing is, you have to line up these little holes with these little things, and sometimes if there's gale force winds and it's cold and it's wet and you're sitting there and you're fiddling and you're trying to get it, and you know it's like off center and you look at it like, oh crap, and it's happened more than I'd like. So, and sometimes too, if it's cold, this thing gets stuck on there and it's hard to get it off. And plus, if this boiling hot and you're fiddling with this trying to get it off, so in general, I'd say there's definitely room for improvement with the fact that this thing doesn't work most of the time, and then the way this connects on there is quite fiddly. But my biggest gripe with the Jetboil is none of that stuff. It's this thing here. I hate this thing. This is the base for the canister. So in theory, you're supposed to be able to, you can see there's two notches there, and this thing comes folded up like this. So it does fold up, it puts all nicely away into this. Unfortunately, to actually use this thing, it'll take about 35 minutes to get this canister into this thing. I've never seen anyone be able to get one of these in here easily. As far as I know, you should have these bent when you're doing this. And then you can fiddle it in there to get the first two, and you straighten them out as you're doing this. And the first two go in, but the third one is always it just never goes. You have to use the strength of 12 Greek gods to try to get this thing on there. So often this is what I end up with, is one of these is not on there, and I just find some spot where, see, it's uneven now because it's not clicked in, and I find somewhere where it's uneven on the ground, so I can just put it down and make it even. I never, ever get this in there, and it's so frustrating. And this goes, even getting it off sometimes annoying too. And even if you're using a bigger canister like this, and you're using the bigger notches, it's the same thing. It drives me bonkers. See, so I can get two of them in there, and then this one, it just doesn't go. And it's like you use the strength of use so much strength, as you can see, getting it off just come on thing. So in general, I hate this thing. This is the worst design ever. It just doesn't work. It's terrible. So I'm at a point now where I'm not even bringing this thing anymore because I waste so much time with it. I just put this on the ground, and then I put some rocks against it if I need to just prop it up, or I just balance it, or I hope for the best. I can't be bothered to bring this and fiddle with this thing. It's the worst. So in general here with the Jetboil, it's a good cook system, especially if you're just getting into backpacking. It's kind of got everything. Packs away nicely. You know, the little gas handle thing here flips over, and you can put this away all nicely. You can pack it all away, etc. And a fuel canister will fit inside of here too. It's just, there's a few things here that are just so annoying that I'm at a point now where if I'm bringing my Jetboil, this thing is never coming with me. And I don't think I'm really bringing this anymore either because I just never use it. Just using it with this is fine. This is, if you can get this on sale for a good price, these are often pretty pricey too. The container though, you do have to keep this very clean and dry. I've had it go moldy once because I had just a bit of water in there and I left the lid on and it was just sitting for a while, and I was, ooh, there's a bit, I guess a tiny bit of food in there, and the whole thing grew. So this will probably be the case with most pots. It's not just Jetboil, but my main gripes with it are just this thing. I absolutely hate it, and also the igniter just never works. So it is what it is. One thing I'd love to see is if they incorporated something like this fire beaner, this little spindly bit, onto something that attaches to this thing. Like if there was just some piece that was that hung down, and it was just, you could flip it over, it just sparks up so nice and easily. Big sparks, boom, lights it up, easy peasy. You don't have to fiddle with this system. It would be lighter and simpler. One other thing about Jetboils is you can't simmer them. It's either it's on or it's off. If you try to simmer them, it's so fiddly because what you're doing is you're dialing down the amount of gas that comes out, but any little gust of wind and it puts it out. And so I've had it go out so many times when I'm just trying to simmer it longer. The best things to really cook in here are things like rice noodles, things that once you boil it, you can just turn it off and then let it cook itself. Or those, Mountain House meals, the ones with the bag meals and all those kind of ones. The freeze-dried ones, the dehydrated meals, all those kind of things work well. But if you need something to simmer for longer, Certain types of pasta, I notice you have to cook long over time. They get stuck onto this thing. You have to keep stirring them and stirring them and stirring them. Otherwise they get stuck because you can't simmer this thing. So that's a major downside to that. And with its benefits and with its downsides and this thing, I think overall I'd give this thing about a 7.5 out of 10. It could be lighter. It could have a much easier system for lighting it with one of these little bits. By getting rid of that, it would also make this thing lighter. If they included some sort of simple way to attach some tinfoil as a windscreen to some sort of little clip on here or something, there's definitely room for improvement on this thing, but overall it's a good place to start if you're starting backpacking. It's not the best ultralight solution, and it's definitely not the best cook system out there. So that's my long-term review of the Jetboil. Not bad, 7.5. See you guys in the next one.